And just know that when you all are done looking at these, I'm going to give you a little bit of some highlights of things that you might want to think about, but I wanted you all to kind of look at them first and get an impression. Anybody need more time? Okay, hearing none, kind of pull everybody back together and talk a little bit about reference checks. And, we all know, you apply for a job and you have to give name of 3 people, and, sometimes you get letters from them ahead of time, and they give those to you, and you upload those with your application. And they all have different weight depending on different things. So, I will talk a little bit about the role of the reference check, and that's really to kind of verify information. It's a way for you to kind of double check the things that they put on their resume, the things that they have put on their application. It can help kind of screen out people or look at their potential for success. You can ask questions about, whether they are willing to take initiative or leadership. I always ask about attendance. Do they come to work on a regular basis? Do they come to work on time? Those are just simple things that nobody's going to put on their application. You're not going to see from what they're putting. Background information they may not have mentioned. People, when you call a reference, sometimes they'll say things that are helpful to you to know, whether they even intend to or not. So, and who that person is important as well. Not just who they are, but, are they a supervisor? Are they a colleague? Are they a friend? I actually had someone apply for a position. I always tell the story, who listed her veterinarian as a reference. And when I called that person, and she didn't say it was her veterinarian, like the dog's doctor. But when I called, she was like, yes, I know her. I was like, how do you know Susie? She said, I'm her dog's vet. And it was like, obviously she just ran out of people to list and had to come up with somebody. I'm not quite sure where that came from. It was an odd one. So, it is important, and you do want to pay attention to that because it's meaningful. Who they have chosen, who they haven't in terms of listing. You want to think about, the things that, trying to think of how to say this, but we are going to have for you an online reference that is sent to the people they list. Then they will also have uploaded letters. And of course, those letters generally are given to that candidate, so they're you need to kind of weigh or take all of that with a grain of salt. And then obviously we're going to be calling references as well, because it's really important to do that and to follow up on the things that they've said on that other form. So all of them really important. And we won't be calling the references on every applicant. You'll be narrowing your list down when you get to that. So that's really important. And then, of course, you also have the interview questions from the 3 candidates as well. And in the next training, you all will be deciding what questions you want based on your criteria. But these questions were based on the criteria in the little packet. So based on both of those things, we can probably get a little broader picture of the candidates, correct? I'm thinking everybody went to sleep on me. Everybody's frozen. I know. So, okay. So give me some feedback on what you learned by looking at the reference check and the interview questions about the different candidates. What might help you narrow your search? What about applicant 1?
Those references all over the place.
All over the place?
It seemed like that candidate maybe can put on a good show or a good face for some people, but then some people see the real guy, because there were just some great things and some real not so great things.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that stuck out to me was the relationships with staff was an area of growth for number 1. And I feel we're just such a relationship school that, to me, that would really throw up a red flag. I thought it was interesting that there was such a disconnect. You could see, even though they were all over the place, there almost was a trail that you could follow. That was the director of elementary schools. That was the administrative reference, I think. That person seemed to have no idea what was actually going on in this school. The part that I'm thinking about specifically was they were like, oh, she knows all about the curriculum because she meets at least once every 2 weeks with teachers. And then the teacher was saying they actually meet maybe once a month. So it seems like she was definitely telling the administrators, her supervisors, a totally different story than what was actually happening. But nobody seemed to be checking in on that either.
Well, that person seemed to think, the director thought that she doesn't get any complaints, but then you have the parent one that was like, I don't really think she knows, and I've had concerns, and I've taught, that person just hasn't gone to the next person, but she's had contact with the principal, and the principal listened or given a solution, really.
There was a statement on the director of elementary schools reference. She said something like, she runs a tight ship. I can be totally hands off. And when I read that, I was like, but you shouldn't be.
All right, so definitely some red flags with her references. What about her answers to the interview questions?
Yeah, I had to quit reading some of them. I ended up writing bad answers. I couldn't.
Yeah. So suffice it to say, we're probably not interested in person 1 based on the things that I'm hearing from you all, if this was real.
Yeah.
I liked that you all are doing great. Y'all are great. We're just going to keep doing what y'all are doing. You all want to go on to number 2? Sure. All right. right. So what did you see in number 2's reference? It is Block Black, whatever her name is.
There was consistent across all 3 people had very good things to say about her. Like each place, it didn't seem like there was an underlying disconnect somewhere.
And they were also specific, like when they talked about like the home connection, they had like a specific home reading partnership that she had created. So it wasn't just generic praise. They could back it up.
I also thought it was interesting that one of the references mentioned that they hated to see her go, but they knew it was because her husband was getting a new job. So a lot of times, I know in interviews we wonder, like, well, why are they leaving if they're so great at their previous job? But that connected some dots.
Exactly. You may not have known that.
They also talked about how much she loved the work. I think it was like the superintendent who had commented that they would love to have her at central office at the district level, but they knew she just really loved the work of the principal. Yeah, I thought that was good information.
And that she wanted, that was the superintendent too. Like she just wanted to do that until she retired. Like she wasn't looking to move on somewhere else.
Yeah.
There was a lot about her relationships, I felt like, with like everyone. Like I think it's candidate 3 had a lot of like, she's really great with students, like she's getting the students to do these things, but this candidate had a lot of mentions of like, she's very supportive of the teachers like trust her. It said something about like her wanting teachers to take on leadership roles, which was not in the other 2.
Somebody also, I don't remember which one said it, but somebody said that if she wasn't the most informed person in a meeting, that soon afterwards she would. I thought that was good. Like, that she would want to learn or be informed.
Basically, people think she is smart and a learner.
Yeah.
What about her interview questions? Those change her? Add anything more? Present the agenda, and then you can.
I don't know what her conspiracy
start us.
That was a little weird without having been there and talked about her philosophy on educating. It was weird that maybe the word conspiracy was used, but
I thought that too. But I think she meant to make it as a positive.
To like throw it out the window by any means. Yeah. Strange wording.
I thought so too.
But I mean, she wants all stakeholders involved. It seems like in a lot of her answers is important.
And again, she was very specific. She was able to give specific details and answers as far as even looking at the data and specifics. We talked about in regards to the data from the school, specifics of things that she did with teachers and with parents and with students. So again, being able to give those specific, it just seems like all of it fit together. Her resume and her references and her interview all seem to correlate.
Okay, great. All right. How about candidate 3? Anything jumped out at you with her references?
It seems like she might be missing out on some teacher buy-in. Like, I don't remember what it was that I read, but it talked about like she might have like a select few people that she went to and listened to. All the staff didn't feel as if one of the teacher was in the teacher.
Yeah. Think about who she picked. If that teacher was who she picked, what does that say? thought that person would give her a good reference.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You know, she thought that was going to be her strong teacher that loved her, and she said she needs to listen to all of it.
Felt like she seemed like they all were very like honest that she was talented and good at her job, but didn't feel like they were part of the process.
Again, I think it was that relationship piece that was just lacking. The teachers, they said she wasn't popular. They didn't have a lot of building consensus. Teachers didn't feel a part of the process. But she was talented. Her scores were. Yeah, but there wasn't a lot of buy-in.
Yeah.
From this stuff.
It was like very data focused too.
Yes. Yes. Our first two, one had the superintendent. Candidate 2 had the superintendent. Candidate 1 had the curriculum director. Who was the supervisor that candidate 3 had?
A principal at another school.
Is that a supervisor for her?
No.
No.
But they're the one that even they say a lot of the thing about the buy-in and.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's a big red flag if they don't have a supervisor. Someone that can really speak to their work and following. What about her interview questions? Anything there that makes you like her better?
She talked a lot about a positive school culture, but after reading her references, it didn't seem like her teacher culture was that positive.
Yes. That's what you're kind of, that's a great tying it together, because you're wanting to look for the people that she listed as her references back up the things she says about herself. In her interview, she also said that she values input from a lot of sources. Didn't really catch that in her references, did you?
No.
Yeah. So, all right. So the kind of the point of doing this, and the point of kind of looking at all of these hopefully fake references and applications and interview questions, is to kind of just give you an idea of what you're going to be doing when we have the next training. Because you will have in front of you at that point actual applications, resumes. You'll be calling references and jotting those things down, and we'll look at reference questions next time, as well as the interview questions next time. But you'll be having to make that kind of a decision to pull everything together, look at all that data, and try to tease out what's really happening in each situation. Another couple of notes on references, and when we do contact references, I know the way that this has worked in the past is I think that people just kind of divide things up, and sometimes Matt will call the references, sometimes you all will want to call specific people. So, sorry, I'm looking at the chats about Chris's children. Sorry. I guess he had to step off video there for a few minutes.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. We were laughing. I was laughing at it. I thought somebody might have a question, so I looked over there. When we do contact references, and I'll have this info for you all, and we'll look at the suggested questions. But the important things is to make sure that you clearly tell them why you're calling. Make sure it's a good time to talk. A lot of times, if they don't have time to talk, be willing to schedule a time, or have them call you back at a specific time or things like that. Be ready to kind of have your questions ready, and take their time. Their time is important, and you need to be respectful of that. Don't share anything about whether you like that person or not, or what you gleaned from their application with the reference, because the first thing, if you've ever been a reference for somebody, frequently the first thing a reference does is call that person and say, oh, they just called and called me for your reference, and I told them this, and this, and they seem to really like you, and that could really put you in a tough situation. And again, you don't want to share where they are in terms of, are they our number one candidate or our number two candidate? All of those things are really important, and you got to keep confidentiality of that candidate as well as the other candidates as well. Anything that isn't clear, any questions you're not sure about, you want to go back to before you let them go. You don't want to have to call them back if you don't have to, but you want to make sure you've gotten all of your questions. And then document everything, and of course thank them for their time, because they're giving their time to help us, to help us make a good decision there. So all of those things are really important. Any questions on references? And then again, we're going to talk about interview questions next time specifically, but we're going to use that rubric or the criterion that we have and develop our interview questions for that, from that. And then we'll kind of decide who to interview based on all of the data that you have together when we look at the applications. That didn't make any sense, but I'm tired too. I think we're all, that's what I'm like, I'm looking at the notes and I'm like, that didn't make any sense. So, one thing I did want to make sure I remembered to kind of get in, and we'll talk about this a little bit next time, what not to ask, what things you can't ask in an interview, and when we do those, and I'll have a handout for everybody, but you really can't ask anything about anything that they could be discriminated against for. It's kind of the key. So it's pretty basic. It's, you really can't ask age, race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, religion. We'll know some of those things because they'll give you a picture. They'll give you, we ask them their date of birth, we ask them their ethnicity on the application, but it tells them that they don't have to answer that. And so if they haven't answered, you can't say, well, I see from your application you left your date of birth blank. How old are you? You can kind of figure it out probably if you look at how long they've been a principal, when they graduated from college, all of those kinds of things. But, we really can't ask those questions because that could weigh your consideration of them. You can't ask marital status, family status, whether they're pregnant or not, how much salary history is kind of, we ask it on the application, but again, they don't have to answer it. You don't have to, you really shouldn't ask those things in that interview. And, sometimes it's always a fun surprise. I interviewed a teacher from another state online or over the telephone, actually just telephone. So we didn't even have a picture. Loved her, hired her. She still works for us, but when she showed up on the first day of school, she was 8.5 months pregnant. And it was like, oh, and of course we were like great with that, but we just didn't have any clue. She didn't tell us. We hadn't met her. We had no idea. So, but it's all good. We're about kids. So, those are things that we welcome and we're happy with. So we just want to be real careful about all of those things in the interview process. So, all right. I forgot one really, really important thing. And it was back when we were talking about open meetings, the way the notes for these things are organized is a little different. And after I've done this one, I'll be able to fix it a little bit, make it more me-friendly. But I forgot to talk about confidentiality. This is a big, big deal. All of the things we talk about in these meetings is confidential, and you have to maintain that for the entire process. Because if you don't, it can really set the new principal up in some tough ways. If they find out, other people know about candidates, know about things that are being said, who's in the running and who's not. All of those things can set things up. And honestly, it's actually a violation of your site-based responsibility. So if we find out that you violated confidentiality, talked about this process at all, It actually could cause you to be removed from the council, which don't want that to happen in the middle of this process by any means. Matt, I know that you have some real strong feelings about that, and I didn't know if you wanted to kind of share anything about the process and how important it is to just kind of let it happen.
Yeah, and she's just talking about the overall process for hiring, and I do believe if we go into this very open-mindedly and utilize all the resources that are laid before us, then we're going to truly end up with the best candidate for that time. I think the important thing in this is to not go in with your mind made up. I think as soon as you do that, you start judging everything completely different. So look at what you feel like is best for that school and make sure that we're asking the right questions to try to acquire as much information. But again, going into it open-minded is what I think gives us the best results.
The last thing on the agenda is the focus group questions that we looked at. You have those in your folder, ones that have been used before, and just want to make sure that there's not any that you all feel like need to be changed or need to be left off. If you want to look at those again really quickly, we'll kind of get some consensus on that. And then I also need to know, in terms of students, what you all want to do. I think you've done 4th and 5th grade. Do we want to survey students, and what's the best way to do that right now? I guess I need some feedback from the teachers on that one.
As far as staff and parents, I mean, if these were sent out as forms before, I think if we preface it and make sure that they're not mandatory to answer each question, but can answer select questions if you want to send in an updated to whatever. I think all of them are fine. I think they're all still relevant questions. That could be placed on our school website or sent out in a school and or sent out in an email. That way, whomever would like to respond to any of them can make updated responses, but wouldn't feel like they have to answer each and every question.
So we could send that out to parents utilizing their IC email addresses, and then we could also post something on your guys' website, allowing them to access that. And then obviously the easy thing with the staff is to send out the same thing like Megan's talking about, just an email with that survey link.
And then I don't know, Allison, you were a part of the student one last time.
Yeah, it was just 4th and 5th grade. Abby, you guys didn't do it. Last year when we did it, it was the form, and we had them do it. The link was available for them to do it at home, but we had our 4th grade classes do it at school, and we talked about it before they did it, so they would take it seriously. Obviously we can't do that way this year, but
we're
already posting. Yeah, we're already posting everything to Google Classrooms. Could 4th and 5th grade teachers just post?
Like we could share it with our stuff in the next. Either it might be good if we could share it next week. Since we only have 2 left in instruction. Yeah. I don't know.
I know a lot of us are videos and things to kind of explain. So in your video, you say, "Hey guys, this is what this is."
Yeah, or we could make it might be useful because I would talk about it in my Google Meet with my kids, but not all my kids are coming. But it might be useful to have someone make a video that goes along with it, like specifically to the students, like explaining what it is and what it's for. I can't guarantee that they'll watch it, but that might be something that helps it seem more important and give them a better understanding of what they're doing before they start just filling out a survey.
Are we, just based on what we were talking about earlier in the meeting, are we going to be offering them all of the same questions again, or are we just going to be asking them for additional feedback or that type of thing?
Are you talking student?
Yeah, or even, and I'll just say,
because I was thinking parents and staff, we had talked about the possibilities of sending them all out, but acknowledging that we had gathered this information last year, so if they want to add additional stuff, provide additional input on any of the items, to please do so at this time, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's better to try to get it all from students. I don't know.
I don't know that we could just give them that and then really give us anything of value.
Yeah.
We probably need to have some more guided questions for the students.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
But at the same time, you need all of those focus group questions either.
Right. I mean, given the situation, do you feel like you need new student data, or is the data that you have from 4th and 5th graders from last year pretty helpful already? I mean, we don't have to get new student data. Not every search do we even do that.
I don't know if it would. One of the groups of students is the same, like the 5th graders that you would pull this year, or the 4th graders that filled it out last year.
Yeah.
I mean, it may just be more difficult to get true student data for what we're looking for.
Right.
That just leave this out because of the way school is what it is right now.
Yeah.
And just offer the other questions to parents and staff with the ability to answer any of the questions and give updated data for what updated, it's not really data, but input for any of the questions, with the option to not have to answer each one, but only answer one.
Yeah.
What do the parents feel about that? Do they feel like that's a fair thing to just kind of go with our last year's data, or does it feel like we're not giving your kids a voice?
I think
I'm
okay.
I've got a first grader, it doesn't count.
Sorry.
Heather, go ahead.
I feel like there was a lot of time and teacher, putting time and effort into getting the student involvement. I feel like there was a lot of feedback last year, and I do feel like it would still be very similar. And as a parent, I think if it's, mentioned that this information was gathered last year and feel like we got, a lot included in that, I'm fine with that. Now I have a first grader, this year, so she wouldn't be taken into account anyways, but I feel like just it was done last year and it was very inclusive. So I would be good with that.
No, I second what Jerry said. I agree.
Okay. Victoria?
Along the lines of what Megan said, I think last year it was tricky enough being at school to get the teachers before they were given little talks about, good feedback. And then before we did the focus groups, we chatted with the kids about appropriate feedback. And we still, if you look at the focus group, we still got things like they want a student lounge and they want more recess. And not that that's not valuable, that's great, but, and we got some great stuff too, but I worry that it would be difficult to get, anything better than what we had before with the remote situation.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I feel like they're probably going to be taking it with their family, so it would be really similar to what you got in your parent feedback if a parent were to fill it out.
Mm-hmm.
One thing about the parent one, it was mentioned to go on the website, but just for me, I don't get on the website, but the Warner Wildcat chat email, having a link in it would be more beneficial to me.
That was what what's in IC is how you get your Warner Wildcat chat. So it would be sent via that and posted on the website to access it either way.
Okay.
Yeah, good. So are we in agreement to just send out for additional feedback, the questions to parents and teachers, and then just use the existing data we have on students?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's good.
Good. Otherwise, I was a little concerned about the timeline because I really only have about a week to, I have to get all the questions out probably by Tuesday, then give them a week of time to be able to answer. You want that survey to get, you're not going to get them all back in 24 hours. You've got to give a timeline on that. And then we would only have a few days before we met again. So just making sure we can get all that done. But I think with this, we can. So, all right. That is everything, I think. Mr. Moore, anything that you can think of that I left out or forgot to mention? We've got our next meeting set. We're going to send out our surveys hopefully early next week. We'll have those results back. Will they get the results before we have the meeting on the 12th?
Yeah, my preference would be to send them to them a couple days ahead of time anyway. They can process all that. And then obviously back to the conversation that Michelle had earlier, that would all be confidential information that you're looking at from that point on.
Okay. So I'm going to put my timeline is that you get the results back by May 8th, since we meet on the 12th. And we'll figure out how I get that to you. I'll print out I'll have the old booklets and then figure out what we do, whether it's something that you can pick up here at central office or whether we just email you an electronic copy and have access to both. So
yeah, I think
everything is different.
Yeah.
I do think it would be beneficial if I know the documents you sent us, we had time to kind of review beforehand, but if we had time to review those things beforehand so that we weren't sitting in here kind of staring at each other, reviewing them in this setting. Not saying I didn't love looking at everyone's icon. However, it might save everybody some of that time of us sitting in here since we're not in a room together.
And we did say that the 12th is going to be a pretty much like all day type meeting. Yes. Okay, just making sure for childcare things. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Y'all don't want to here all day.
Yeah, some of us struggle with that even on a 2-hour meeting, Abby. So
we'll have to keep in their underwear multiple times. I'm sorry.
We'll get breaks. We'll have breaks and. Yeah, I got to figure all that out. It's just like having an all-day meeting on like this. It's just, and everything you plan, you just think, you don't think about it until suddenly it's like, oh, well, May 12th, we probably won't be loosened up yet. So, or at least not that much, not enough to have 15 people in a room together. So, we will make it work one way or the other. So, okay, any other questions for you all? I've kept you a little bit late. Stephanie?
I do have one question. Actually, I just want to clarify. We are going to be sending out requests for feedback on the current focus group questions to see if there's anything that anybody else would like to add, right? We're going to send that first.
Yes.
Yes.
Is that not correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then, sorry, I just saw everyone staring at me. I was like, what? And then after that is when our deadline for actually sending out the survey to focus groups is next week. Is that correct?
Okay, no, well, we will not be resharing the results with the teachers. No,
I think I might be
they actually haven't seen that because okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So hopefully by Tuesday, I will have the questions in a format that we can send them to the teachers, but we will direct them that if they completed these questions or participated in a focus group last year, that they don't have to answer every question. We just want any additional feedback they want to give us on the things that they're looking for in their principal. but we would not necessarily share those look-fors because those are pretty confidential. Those are the things that were the consensus last year. So yeah, that handout's very confidential. You want to keep that to yourself, not even with your spouse. Anything else?
Just one more
And
thing.
I'll send out meeting notes.
On the parents, I know first grade, I'm pretty hands-on on our NTI because she's in first grade. I don't know if in our Google Classroom when we go in that there is just a note about, kind of what this is about to go to the email. Because I know I have a friend that's involved too. She says she doesn't get the Warner Chat emails. So maybe just another method of putting it out there for the parents to have feedback.
Heather Blandford, could you help with something like that to put a message out maybe Monday that parents and teachers are going to be getting an email requesting feedback on this?
If the email is sent to teachers as something, like I know, like for first grade, we have all one classroom, but if it's sent to us as like, hey, put this on your Google Classrooms, I think that's something easy that all grade levels can do.
Yeah.
Just as a way to get feedback. I mean, I know for first grade, a lot of those kids weren't there. Their parents, if they're new to Warner, they may want to answer.
Yeah.
Something.
Absolutely.
As long as I have the link to the parent one, I can easily put that on our first grade classroom. That's not a problem.
So Michelle, what do you need me to do?
Well, I guess I'm trying to decide the best way, whether you want to put something Monday to say that you're going to be getting something, or just wait until I have the link and then I can send that to you and you can send something to all the teachers to put on their classrooms just to, for parents, just parent links. So that would, because I think you're right. They're going to be in that classroom more often and they're going to be looking at the website or even looking at their email. And if they see that and see what it's for, then they'll be more likely to participate. So if you can kind of help me with that, that would be great.
I think that would work. Like once you have it, just get it to me, and then I can get it to the teachers to put into their Google Classrooms.
Okay. Perfect. I know what I'm doing Monday.
Yeah. Okay. So I do not believe there are any public comments. Is that correct?
Not a word.
Okay.
We
no.
Block that. Yeah.
So no public comments. So I'll just close by thanking everybody for participating in this. It is a lot different doing this virtually, but again, we have the right team doing this work, so I appreciate everything you guys have done tonight. And subject to your questions, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Megan, is there a second? Okay. Indicate by agreeing by signing off.
Later.
There you go. Thank you all.
Bye.